Anybody watch the rock fights on TV last night? I mean, good God. You could watch American Idol or you could watch live Middle Eastern rock fights. 1-866-331-TALK. 1-866-331-TALK.
That's got to be on Spike every Friday night.
You're listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show.
And the gangs of the government were bribed by 50 pounds for each. And the chicken, they gave them bribes to beat us.
That's an 80-year-old Egyptian protester saying that the bad guys were bribed with 50 pounds and a chicken.
Boy, I bet you were something before the Sphinx, huh?
She remembers Cleopatra, for crying out loud.
But the way she said it was they bribed them with 50 pounds each and the chicken. So was Mubarak bribing the chickens as well? Or was he bribing people with chickens?
Was pounds money?
Or was it 50 pounds of chicken?
I don't know. And we decided she sounds just like this person. Did you still have? Oh, you don't have any more.
Unless you got a hell of a big freezer. What are you going to do with 50 pounds of chicken?
Boy, you're in dire straits when you can be bribed with that chicken to go riding then on a camel and beating your fellow countrymen.
Yeah, well said.
From the text line, I can't believe my wife clogged up my TV with Idol when I could have been watching Middle Eastern rock fights. That would have been mint. Is that a new expression?
I don't know,
that's
but
mint.
I like it.
That is good, isn't it?
I like it.
Also, coming up, we've got the audio of Anderson Cooper getting beaten up, and we'll play that for you later. Try to get to that at 7:47, I suppose. And also from the text line, which is 530-LUTE-106, L-U-T-E. If Anderson Cooper got beat up in Egypt, is it considered a hate crime? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is anybody alleged gay bashing on the part of the Egyptians?
And this to straighten things out. Isn't El Baradei an inspector for the IAEA, or am I getting my Mohammeds mixed up? No, he is. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Yeah. Reed in San Jose is on the line. Then we'll get that Pew Research poll, I promise. Reed, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, gentlemen. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Always a pleasure to speak with you. Like I was telling Vince, I was in the first Gulf War. I was in law enforcement, and I was also a canine handler, as well as a Mark 19 gunner. And I was stationed in Cairo. I had a stint in Cairo where I was providing physical security there for the folks in Egypt. And the government of Mubarak is it's very conservative. It aligns itself with basically like a stabilizing force in the Mideast. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of upheaval over there, as you know. Mm-hmm. But they are. There's a lot of respect in the military community, the American military community, and the NATO for Hosni Mubarak. He is not the big bad boogeyman that the media is painting him up to be.
Are you saying we should be rooting for the pro-Mubarak people?
Here's what I'm saying. I've served over there under orders, and I've aligned myself with those troops and those forces and the people of that mindset. It is a very unstable region. The entire continent. So
you'd be on a camel riding in, swinging a stick?
Was I? No,
you would be. You're on the side of those people.
Yeah, and Reed, partly because we got a lot of good stuff from this Pew poll that I want to get to. But so what you're saying is it really takes an iron or at least aluminum-fisted dictator to keep the truly evil forces from taking over in the Middle East.
That's the way it is over there. I mean, look, I was no fan of Saddam either. In fact, I fought against that whole thing too. But that is a region, that's an area over there where if you are weak, you are impotent, and if you are strong, you have to keep the cuckoos in place with strength and power.
The cuckoos
and the Muslim Brotherhood. These guys are nasty, bad, dark people, and you do not want them. If you're looking at the two of them, you take somebody like Mubarak, and when I've served alongside in uniform with his troops, these guys are not the big bad boogeyman that the liberals in the media want you to think they are. The opposition is somewhere between Al Qaeda and Nazis and communists all mixed together, as opposed to Hosni Mubarak. So you've got a very conservative, very military-minded, very structured and traditional government under Hosni Mubarak being offset and trying to get overthrown by the likes of Hitler mixed with...
all right, that's two Hitler bombs in one conversation.
Hey, man, come on.
Have you no shame? All right, Reed, thanks a bunch. We got to go, but thanks for the call. That's a great question.
Or that's what Mubarak wants you to believe, so he gets to keep being a dictator.
Exactly. But the great question is, all right, if you knock out the truly cruel dictator, which is not sustainable forever, you got to remember that always ends badly eventually. It's just a question of when. So you throw him aside.
I was talking about that with somebody last night. You can't keep on doing this forever, paying off dictators.
Right.
It's,
So what's next? If indeed Reed is right and the smallish percentage of the population that is the Muslim Brotherhood takes over, Lord knows they're going to have some secret police you're not going to like much either. I mean, they're going to be even worse.
They'll be riding hippos.
Well, again with the hippos. All right, here's your Pew Research Center poll, attitudes in Muslim countries, including beautiful Egypt. Land of the Nile.
Pyramids.
Pew found that 90% of Egyptians say they believe in freedom of religion.
90%.
90%.
That's good.
Now, you're going to hear that stat kicked about. You might not hear this, that Pew researchers found that 84% of Egyptians favor the death penalty for people who leave the Muslim religion.
84%?
Yes, that's Pew in a separate poll.
How do those two things fit together?
That's an excellent question, Jack. How? And the people at Pew.
I mean more as the poll than the belief system of Egyptians. I think that there's got to be something wrong in the questions. One of those questions was too broad or something like that.
It would seem that by freedom of religion, they mean freedom to practice Islam or to convert to Islam, not to convert away from it. Now, you've got to remember, Hosni's been whacking down on certain forms of Islam, too. The more political ones. And so a lot of them may be thinking, well, freedom of religion means I get to kick it as Islamic as I want. But the people at Pew, when asked, how do you reconcile those two attitudes or those two results, say, quote, this is the guy in charge, I'm not entirely certain what explains that. So, the Pew survey found wide streams of opinion that seem at the very least inhospitable to democracy. When asked which side they would take in a struggle between, quote, groups who want to modernize the country or Islamic fundamentalists, 59% of Egyptians picked the fundamentalists, while 27% picked the modernizers. In a country in which the army will likely play a deciding role in selecting the next political leadership, just 32% believe in civilian control of the military. And a majority support making segregation of men and women in the workplace the law throughout Egypt. 54% said suicide bombing can be justified, although most believe that those occasions are rare. 82% supported stoning for those who commit adultery.
What percent?
82. But that gets into that whole bizarre, if I'm powerful, I can see a hot chick and say, I marry you for an hour. Then do the old, the camel with two humps, if you will, and then divorce her an hour and a half later, and that's fine. That's not adultery. Or they screw little boys and say, well, that doesn't count. So, that's a different subject.
Well, see, this gets to what I've been asking all week long, which I've not heard addressed, by the way, by anybody. I've heard nobody bring this up. I realize Cairo's a huge city. It's 20 million people, but there are 84 million people in Egypt. Mm-hmm. What are the other 64 million people doing? Some of them are in Alexandria, but most of them are just out there in various sized towns.
Watching the rock fights on TV, probably.
Way more people than you're seeing on the street. Right. I mean, it's like looking at Manhattan and deciding, well, that's what America looks like. That's what everybody thinks. That's what everybody dresses like. That's what everybody, the way they live their lives.
Well, our media actually does believe that.
Well,
the Pew report...
This could be the answer to what those people think and what they're doing.
The Pew report, which was last year, by the way, said 82% of Egyptians hold an unfavorable view of the United States. 82%. That's higher than Pakistan, higher than Jordan, higher than 18 other nations Pew surveyed. And it's higher than the 72% of Egyptians who have an unfavorable view of Al-Qaeda.
But that's the whole they like Americans but don't like the government or don't like our policies or something like that, right? Because I've heard a variety of people who have traveled to Egypt saying they love Americans over here. They come into the pyramids and stay in their hotels.
And there's a...
what's Egyptian food? You ever eaten Egyptian food at an Egyptian restaurant?
I believe I have. It's you remember that... the The Ethiopian food we've had, well, it's not like Ethiopian food, but it's fairly similar. It's really good. It's, like pita breads. And
everybody always says that. It's really good. About whatever it is. Everybody always says that.
I don't always say that.
We were talking yesterday up at the front desk.
I can't choke down Indian food, okay? I can see that. The stuff we had in South Africa made me want to retch.
Up at the front desk, we were talking yesterday about the Iranian food and whatever that yogurt drink thing is they have.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing I've ever eaten.
Now, Persian food, winner.
Yeah, but that yogurt drink is somebody goes in the back, vomits in a cup, and brings it out to you.
I'll tell you my secrets before I drink another sip of that. And just let me summarize this with a note from an editorial in the Washington Examiner that said, so if it falls apart with all these conflicting attitudes, what do we make of this? As they say in Arabic and in English too, only God knows what is next.
What's coming up on your news, Marshall? You ever had that Iranian yogurt drink?
No, I have not. Doesn't sound like I'm going to search it out either. WikiLeaks, latest leak, space war between the U.S. and China. Safeway hit by a class action suit that could affect you. And scientists have created invisibility cloaks.
I've been wanting one of those.
6 minutes from now.
So that's all coming up. And we have the audio of Anderson Cooper getting beaten up that we should play sooner rather than later.
It shocks the conscience. Stay tuned. We'll get right to
poor
that.
Dude. You are listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show and watching on the Bay Area's TV 50. President Bush had a long talk with Mubarak yesterday. Did I hear that?
Really?
Yeah, that they're old friends.
I didn't hear that one.
Hosni, what you doing?
I only read that one place, and I've heard no details about it.
I hadn't seen that anywhere.
That somehow President Bush had contacted the current president saying, would you like me to give him a call?
Right.
And he said, because I know the guy pretty well, which they do, and said sure, and talked to him for a while, but there's no information whatsoever as to what was said.
And listen, before you leave office, you got to ship us Keith Olbermann back from that secret prison we had him sent. Now, but getting back to the yin and the yang, the Iranian Foreign Ministry issued a statement as well on Iran's Al-Alam TV. Do you get that on your cable system?
Al-Alam.
If you don't, demand it! Sorry. Here's the statement, quote, Iran watches closely the developments that are stemming from a wave of Islamic renaissance in the Middle East region. So they're trying to whip up the old Islam thing. See, that's the problem. In the, in the last several decades in the Middle East, the view has been, all right, either you got a dictator or you got an Islamic government.
But come on now, we can't play this whole, we'll give this guy $2 billion a year and we'll give Israel $3 billion a year to not fight each other.
Right.
And then we'll prop up these guys by buying all the oil. I mean, you can't keep going that forever. Yeah. Now's as good a time as any to let the whole thing just shake out the way it's going to shake out.
Yeah, so it would seem.
As if we have any control over that happening or not anyway.
What with the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Volt out? We don't need the gas anymore anyway.
The Nissan Leaf.